Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night. I don't know when you're finding this video, but I was just excited. It's morning here for me, and Bitcoin price is around $50,000, almost 51,000. I just wanted to kind of go on a little rant about why Bitcoin, why I'm so excited about this cryptocurrency, and why I believe it's going to change everybody's lives who gets involved the right way with the currency. So, just to kind of go on a little tangent here, I mean, really, Bitcoin got started in January 3rd of 2009. So, it was actually pretty funny. It was right during the time of the financial crisis that this white paper showed up online from a gentleman or a group of people, a pseudonym nobody knows, named Satoshi Nakamoto. And so that's the founder and the creator of this white paper who wrote this code that people could download onto their computers to have this online currency. And so a lot of people have actually tried to do this before, but what happened here was he actually solved what's called the Byzantine generals principle. So he solved the double spend problem. So before, with online money, whether you have PayPal or Venmo or whatever it is, PayPal was around then, but you couldn't fix the double spend problem. So if I sent you $10, it was really important that I didn't send the same $10 to somebody else, or I can't send the same $10 twice to multiple people. So nobody was ever able to solve that problem. It's called the Byzantine generals principle until Satoshi created a ledger that was distributed. So it was like a game of Monopoly where, let's say all four of us are playing, everyone can see every transaction that happens. So we know that when I owe, Sally $10, that I didn't also give Bob that same $10. The money's accounted for in that transaction through all four of us in a consensus. And so that was really what was a huge thing that made it happen, but it really never took off until a couple people took an arrow for the space and it started getting used. Believe it or not, the first transaction that kind of gave it some value was 20,000 Bitcoin for two large Papa John's cheese pizzas. And so that's kind of what created value in it of, okay, then now what is, value is pretty much what everyone assigns to it, what somebody's willing to pay for a currency. So Bitcoin originally was looked at as, a peer-to-peer cash system. And so over time, it's kind of evolved more as a storage of value. So what is money? Money really is a storage of value or a medium of exchange. And so I actually believe Bitcoin is more of a storage of value. Down the line, it could become a medium of exchange, but I look at it as digital gold. It's gold 2.0. So why is that so important? Well, gold has certain properties that people look to when they're looking to hedge against the US dollar or hedge against traditional markets. I mean, they're looking to protect themselves from what could happen in the traditional world. And so what about gold? Well, there's a scarce supply. There's, every year they keep mining and finding more gold, but there's not that much out there that we found yet. So as the supply doesn't increase like crazy, like the US dollar, which they just keep printing more of, the supply steadily grows. But as demand increases, which seems to be happening now, that drives the price up. It's the simple economics of supply and demand. Well, the thing I love about Bitcoin is it's looked at as the same way as a storage of value. However, it's not scarce. It's finite. And that is the biggest difference. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. So as the simple, supply and demand economics, as increased demand comes in and people want to buy it, which is happening now, and the supply stays the same, the price literally has to go up. So it could be a wild ride and things happen on the way, but as demand increases and supply stays the same, price has to go up. And so that's what I'm so excited about, because when I realized that, okay, there's only 21 million of these things, or only ever going to be 21 million, that really made a lot of sense to me because I see how the US dollar system works. And to be honest with you, I don't like it. I don't necessarily trust it because the government keeps printing more and more. It doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, left, right, it doesn't matter, but it does affect monetary policy. And so monetary policy means, they're quantitative easing and they're rolling more money into the system. They keep printing more and more dollars. Believe it or not, the dollar has lost 95% of its value since its inception, which is crazy. That means that's why goods keep getting more and more expensive. 73% of all US dollars have been created within the last 12 years. So that means that the dollars that you hold are becoming gradually worth less and less and less over time. So it actually doesn't incentivize saving. And so what it does incentivize is buying assets that appreciate compared to the dollar. That's what rich people understand. They're not having their money sitting in cash. They're making it work for them. They're buying businesses that cash flow to make more investments, or they're investing in stocks, or they're investing in gold or silver or real estate or crypto now. And so that's really what rich people do. And so they realize that the dollar is becoming worth less over time. So it doesn't incentivize saving. It actually incentivizes getting rid of it and putting it into other things that will help it grow against the dollar. So now Bitcoin actually incentivizes saving. So every year that Bitcoin, since its inception, again, this is only a 12-year-old experiment, every year since its inception has gone up and up and up and up and up. And now is, it'll go exponentially up and then sometimes correct and exponentially up and correct. But each time it gets higher and higher. And that's so huge. I mean, it's the greatest performing asset of all time. It's the only currency that's ever been created in our lifetimes. And so, that right there should perk your ears up, right? But it's a really, really big deal. I actually believe it to be the biggest, opportunity of our lifetimes. I think it will be the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world. So we've, disrupted different industries before. You've seen the taxi industry disrupted by Uber. You've seen the hotel industry disrupted. You've seen information disrupted by, the internet, which is huge, but nothing is bigger than money. Now we're disrupting finance, we're disrupting money. And so Bitcoin has spawned a number of other cryptocurrencies, most of which are useless, but they're all trying to kind of do different things, where Ethereum's trying to be like the next computing network. And so, Litecoin is trying to essentially be like Bitcoin. Some people look at it as like the silver to that, but so they all kind of serve a different purpose or trying to solve a different need in the marketplace. And so it's really, really wild space. I tell people, if you're not familiar with it or you want to learn more about it, I mean, go to Banking on Bitcoin on Amazon Prime if you have it, because you're probably an American and do, or, check it out on YouTube. My buddy Charlie Shrem is the star of it. It kind of goes through his story, and it's really cool to kind of see from its inception, like what happened, who were the group of people that were the early adopters here, who were the innovators in this space. And so I say that to say that if you think that you're too late to Bitcoin, I'm telling you, you're wrong. If you think you're too late to cryptocurrency, you're incorrect. You just want to be in it the right way, because we are probably where the internet was in 1996, maybe 1997. And so what happened then? There was a ton of investment opportunity. Then there was a bit of a bubble pop, but then what rose from the ashes was your Amazons, your Googles, your Netflix, big companies that really just use the internet to speed up and take what used to be brick and mortar businesses, online. It took analog and brought it digital. And so that's what's happening now with money. So the internet changed information. We are changing money. And so it's the biggest space in the world. And it really actually allows people like some economic sovereignty. So before Bitcoin, there was never a way to opt out of the old legacy financial system and get into a different one. You had to stay within that system. So at the end of the day, if the government wants to take your house, or they want to take your car, or they want to take your money, or they want to seize your bank account or whatever, they can do that. But if you hold your own Bitcoin keys and you know your password, they can't take it from you. It's unconfiscatable, which is another great property of Bitcoin besides being finite. So I looked at it as like, wow, this is amazing. There's an institution that a lot of people, they're at each other's throats right now in the United States, especially after an election year. They're not necessarily trusting the establishment, as you can see. And so that's the establishment that creates and keeps printing more and more and more money. And so with interest rates set at zero for the next couple of years, it looks like, and with their foot on the gas with the global pandemic, that they're going to keep printing more money because it's needed, because people are hurting out there. This is a great opportunity for people to opt out of the old system and to get into an asset that, start acquiring an asset in an asset class that appreciates over time. So what's really cool about this is I swear we haven't started yet. So there's about $24 trillion sitting in pension funds and 401ks. This is just in the US. So you already see big businesses like Elon Musk putting $1.5 billion into Bitcoin. And you see, MicroStrategies and Michael Saylor buying billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin for their company. And so the demand is there, and the businesses are starting to buy on their balance sheet, which is huge. They're making it a strategic play for their business to, hey, let's not hold cash, which we know is going to be worth less and have less buying power. Let's buy Bitcoin so we can hedge ourselves and be smarter, and something that incentivizes savings. We think it'll be bigger on our balance sheet than the cash will. And so I love that idea, but really the on-ramps are already built for some of this money to come from that 24 trillion bucks into this market. They're just waiting on some regulation in the United States for how to make sure it happens. And, now that I think we have a little bit more lax, regulations there, it should be good to go. And so when the money finally does start to flow, it's not going to go to the small coins or to the little altcoins that nobody's heard of. It's going to go into the biggest ones. It needs the most liquidity. So guys, this could drive Bitcoin to 250,000 overnight when some of this, even just 1% of this money starts flowing in. And that's why I think it's going to be such a big space and life changing, because people want this and there's only so many of them out there. People are buying, like when Elon Musk is buying $1.5 billion, he's not getting rid of it, right? So he's holding on to that. So people are swallowing up supply and there's only so much to go around. So there's not enough for every millionaire to go get a full Bitcoin. There's just not. And so what's going to happen is, Bitcoin, people don't realize this, that you can buy just a piece of a Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is divisible by 1,000,000 places. So you can buy 1,000,000th of a Bitcoin. That's called a Satoshi. So I believe one day people will be like scrubbing toilets for Satoshis. Like I actually believe, my economic belief is that one day Bitcoin has a really good chance of becoming the world reserve currency. Like if you're Russia and you're trading oil with Saudi Arabia, why would you use the US dollar? Wouldn't you use your own currency of some kind? Well, they've been using the US dollar or the petrodollar forever because we've had a stronghold on the world, but we're losing that stronghold. We're not as powerful as we once were around the world, where we can just go bomb somebody and start a war if they don't end up using our currency. That times have changed a bit. And so countries are actually waking up to the fact that we don't have to use the US dollar to operate business. And so that's where I think Bitcoin can really serve a need as a world reserve currency, as a currency that is agnostic, that isn't, direct to any one country, that is completely borderless, that is nearly instant, and for a fraction of the cost that they can verify every transaction and see it right on the blockchain. So I think it's going to be really, really huge in that use. And then I also love the fact that Bitcoin can really bring freedom and a whole new marketplace to the world. And what I mean by that is, like, think about the Philippines. So in the Philippines, roughly, there's about 100 million people, and about 5 million people have debit cards or have access to some kind of bank account. In the United States, we have great banking. We're very spoiled. But around the rest of the world, it's not like that. There's like 2.7 billion people that are unbanked in the world. And so in the Philippines, they have 5 million people out of the 100 who have bank accounts, but 60 million of them have smartphones. Right. So now they have a way to get into a financial system and use something like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, that these are people that have never been in the economy before, that are now in the worldwide economy. And it just opens up a huge space, a ton of opportunity to bank the unbanked, creates a lot of investment opportunities. And what do you guys, just less than 2% of cash even exists in the United States. So it's not far-fetched to see us moving towards a cashless society. And so what do you think is more likely, people to shave off a piece of gold to buy something, or to, use their smartphone to do a quick transaction and have it done digitally nearly instantly? It's what's great about Bitcoin versus gold is it's cheaper to send, it's cheaper to store, it's faster, and it's appreciated much more over time. And what's happening now is people are going to their financial advisors and they're saying, hey, like, what, I want these Bitcoin gains. They see it going on in the news, they see it going on in social media, they want to be a part of it. And that's why I love what we have to offer so much, because people need education in this space. They need to get educated on why this is such a big deal. And so this hasn't even started yet. I love the fact that you guys are here right now learning about Bitcoin, learning about cryptocurrencies. It's the kind of thing, like, it's kind of like the internet or like email or like social media. It's like, this is going to get forced upon you anyway. So you might as well start learning it now when it's a little tricky still. It's not the best user experience, but that's where the opportunity is. We will see a $250,000 Bitcoin, $1 million Bitcoin in my life. There's no question in my mind, that will happen. Could it go to zero? Absolutely. But we have to look at, as a trader, I look at probabilities versus possibilities. So will Bitcoin become the world reserve currency? Is it possible? Absolutely. I actually think it's 50% possible. That's why I have 50% of my net worth in it, because I like to align my beliefs with what I think is going to happen in the world for my investments. So, so is it possible? Absolutely, 100%. Is it likely? I'd say about 50, which is probably high for most people. If you think it's a lot less likely, then maybe you put less of your net worth into Bitcoin. But that's how we have to weigh these things, is probabilities versus possibilities. So is it possible that Bitcoin goes to zero? Absolutely. Is it possible that the network crashes? Absolutely. But I can tell you it's the strongest computing network in the history of the world. It's stronger than Google and Amazon combined as far as its computing power of the network, all validating transactions. And so is it probable? No, not probable at all. But is it likely? No, not at all. But it's probable that this will continue on. And as the demand increases and the supply decreases and eventually becomes finite, that, the price has to go up. And so that's why I'm so excited about this, guys, not just as an investment opportunity, but as a way to help people to get out of the old legacy financial system, to kind of be their own bank. Now, being your own bank has a lot of responsibilities, but it's getting easier. And I think there's just huge opportunity for you guys. So it's the greatest performing asset of all time, but we're only 12 years into this experiment. So I'm blessed to be in the space and to have learned all that I've learned. I've learned the good, the bad. I've traded stuff away that could be worth a ton of money today. I mean, when you have the greatest technology in the world, sometimes you don't want to trade it away. But if you know how to have some of these skills, which, we teach, then you can gain more than you would have had. You can condensed time frames, but you got to learn the skill set. So I love that we can help everybody with that. I just wanted to go on a quick little rant on why I love Bitcoin so much. Like I always say, I believe in Bitcoin like I believe in air. And we need air. So I hope that helps you guys. Maybe you understand a little bit more about Bitcoin. We're going to have a ton of resources and tools, and I love talking about this stuff. So we'll have special guests in the group. We'll have some of the most famous people in the crypto world here to share with you more information and their thoughts, because I think it's always great to get different perspectives on the market so you guys can capitalize and crush. So I love you. Thanks for tuning in, and poke around the group. I'll see you soon.